Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome back to The Explainer. Every once in a while, we get a tech news cycle that just delivers an absolute perfect storm of innovation, economic shifts, and groundbreaking science. Today is one of those days. We're unpacking a fascinating digest from Tekin Morning for Sunday, June 28th, 2026. We've got 6 hot tech stories that are actively shaping our future, and I am so pumped to break them down for you. We're going to look at everything from the devices sitting in our hands right now to the macroeconomics of global finance and even how we're literally going to fuel our journey to the stars. So, here's our roadmap for today. We're kicking things off with the AI hardware talent wars, moving into what AI is going to cost you personally, exploring the global financial tech races, dropping some practical advice on MagSafe batteries, and wrapping up with, well, refueling deep space exploration. Let's get to it. All right, part 1, the AI hardware talent wars. Right now, there is a massive shift happening with the devices we use every single day, and it starts with a serious talent bleed from Apple over to a major AI rival. Bloomberg's Mark Gurman really hit the nail on the head here. He says when senior hardware engineers from Apple join OpenAI, it's a signal of a massive shift in the AI hardware industry. We're about to witness the birth of a new generation of intelligent devices. And guys, this isn't just your standard corporate reshuffling. OpenAI is sitting on an absolutely massive $157 billion valuation right now. With that kind of war chest, backed heavily by Microsoft, of course, they can offer literally unmatched compensation packages to build a formidable brand new consumer hardware division completely from scratch. The real centerpiece of this tug-of-war is Paul Maid. He wasn't just some guy in the ranks. He was the VP of hardware engineering for Apple's Vision Products Group. We're talking over a decade working on massive iPhone and iPad projects. Crucially, since 2019, he's been the main architect leading the Vision Pro and Apple's smart glasses development. Now he's jumping ship to OpenAI. Fletcher Rothkopf is stepping into his shoes, but losing the specialized talent who literally built your VR and AR team from the ground up. That leaves a huge void. And Mead isn't a lone wolf here. He's following other heavy hitters like Tang Tan and Evans Henke. OpenAI is clearly building an absolute powerhouse of hardware team. Moving on to Section 2, AI's cost to consumers. Let's bridge this corporate talent war to something that hits a little closer to home, your wallet. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer scale of these price hikes. Apple just officially announced widespread increases across their entire lineup. Just look at this breakdown. The MacBook Neo is up $100. The MacBook Air jumps $200, and that 16-inch MacBook Pro up $300. Even the iPad Air is seeing a $150 bump. And for the pros out there eyeing select Mac Studio models, brace yourselves because you're facing a massive $1,300 increase. Apple CEO Tim Cook released a statement calling these price increases unavoidable. But, why exactly? To put that why into perspective, check out this comparison. On the right, your standard MacBook Pro runs perfectly fine on 16 to 64 gigabytes of RAM. But on the left, an AI server running large language models like GPT-5 needs an absolutely mind-boggling 1 to 2 terabytes of RAM just to hold model parameters. That's dozens of times higher than consumer products. Tech giants like OpenAI, Google, and Microsoft are vacuuming up memory chips at unprecedented volumes. Because of that insane data center demand, memory chip manufacturers like Samsung and Micron literally just can't keep up. This shortage is expected to last until at least fall 2026. So what we're looking at here is essentially the AI tax being passed directly down to us. All right, Section 3, Global Financial Tech Races. Let's zoom out from personal electronics and individual wallets to look at the macro picture. We're seeing AI and government regulation totally reshape global finance. Let's start with one of the wildest financial success stories happening on the planet right now, India's Unified Payments Interface, or UPI. Just absorb this number for a second. 750 million. That is the number of transactions UPI processes every single day. It's a unified protocol where people just use a digital identifier, like a phone number, to send money. No routing numbers, no complex bank details needed. It's so utterly frictionless that everyone from massive corporations down to local street vendors rely on it daily.
But they are definitely not stopping there. The CEO overseeing UPI, Dilip Osbe, just set a massive new target: 1 billion daily transactions. And their secret weapon to get there is artificial intelligence. They plan to use AI to spot and block sophisticated fraud, open up credit for users who literally have zero financial history, and pull in 500 million new rural users with super simple, smart interfaces. Even cooler, companies like Pine Labs are launching protocols like P3P, designed specifically so your personal AI agent can automatically handle your payments in the background. Imagine your AI paying your electric bill or grabbing groceries without you lifting a finger.
Now, while India hits the gas, the United States is kind of stuck in a massive regulatory bottleneck. Right now, there is only a 41% chance that the Bipartisan Clarity Act passes by the end of 2026. That leaves a 59% likelihood of failure or delay. The whole goal of the Clarity Act is to impartially divide up oversight of the massive $2.4 trillion digital asset market, proposing the SEC oversees crypto classified as securities and the CFTC handles crypto classified as commodities. But despite having bipartisan backing, the discussions are totally deadlocked. And that delay has some huge global ripple effects. As economic strategist and Galaxy Digital CEO Michael Novogratz points out, the market desperately needs certainty. While the U.S. is stuck in this unclear gray area waiting on the Clarity Act, places like Singapore and the UAE have already established clear regulations and are turning into massive innovation hubs. Furthermore, Novogratz warns this delay could push vital capital right out of the U.S., potentially ceding ground to China, which already has a very clear legal framework for its state-controlled national digital currency, the digital yuan. Let's pivot to Section 4, Practical Tech, specifically MagSafe batteries. Time to bring things back down to earth and give you some highly practical consumer advice for that new iPhone 17 or iPhone Air. And this brilliantly illustrates why you shouldn't just automatically default to the first-party accessory. Apple recently dropped a new MagSafe pack for $99, but it only packs about 5,000 milliamp hours of capacity. Now, look right below that at the Anker MagGo Slim 10K. For $54.99, which is nearly half the price, you're getting double the capacity at 10,000 milliamp hours. That is literally enough juice to charge an iPhone 17 twice. Then you've got the U-Green MagFlow offering incredibly fast 25-watt charging speeds with the new Q2.2 standard for $70. The third-party market is honestly just outclassing the first-party stuff on value right now. So if you're shopping around, keep these 3 essential golden rules in mind. First, check compatibility. Sure, most of these work on older phones, but you're only getting those top-tier charging speeds on the iPhone 16 and 17. Second, look for the Q2 standard. It's an industry benchmark that basically guarantees better security, safety, and efficiency. And third, when you're comparing price and capacity, don't forget a fundamental law of physics. Wireless transfer naturally loses about 20 to 30% of its energy as heat. You can't perfectly translate battery capacity to phone charges, so always buy a bigger capacity power bank than you think you need. All right, our final segment, Section 5, Refueling Deep Space Exploration. We are blasting off to the grandest scale imaginable to look at a $45 million lab test from NASA and L3 Harris that is quite literally going to change the future of interplanetary travel forever. The whole breakthrough centers on this piece of tech, the cryocoupler. You can basically think of it as a gas pump nozzle for orbit. But instead of pumping regular gasoline, it's transferring ultra-cold cryogenic space fuels, like liquid hydrogen and oxygen. The engineering challenge here is honestly mind-blowing, because these fuels sit at minus 253 degrees Celsius. At that extreme temperature, even a microscopic leak causes the fuel to instantly vaporize, which means total mission failure. Well, the cryocoupler just successfully proved it can transfer 100 tons of this fuel per hour without a single leak. The so what here is massive. Spacecraft can launch from Earth much lighter, pull up to an orbital gas station, and slash their total mission costs by up to 40%. Let's move to the timeline and see how this actually builds a literal highway to the stars, because NASA is moving incredibly fast. Following the successful 2026 lab test, they plan to test the technology in low Earth orbit by 2028. By 2029, we could see the launch of the very first operational orbital refueling station that perfectly sets the stage for the 2030 Artemis missions to the moon. And the real kicker? By 2033, the plan is to have a refueling station in lunar orbit. Without that specific piece of critical infrastructure, sending a crewed spacecraft to Mars is practically impossible. And NASA isn't alone. Private space companies like SpaceX are already planning similar orbital refueling systems for their Starship fleet. Which leaves us with this final thought. We started today looking at engineers jumping ship to build AI smartphones. We looked at how software might totally automate our financial lives. And we wrapped up with orbital gas stations paving the way to Mars by 2033.
The sheer pace of technological evolution across every single sector right now is absolutely staggering. If we are already solving the physics of pumping cryogenic fuel in the literal vacuum of space today, what limits will human innovation break tomorrow? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Stay curious and keep learning.